let's talk about our predictions first and foremost. In 2024, this is our first year that we publicly made predictions about
Yes.
the entertainment industry. And honestly, I went back and watched the video before coming back to ITCAF podcast for 2025. I went back and watched the video, and man, oh man, we did actually pretty well. I
We
was saying
did.
in that video, I want to bat 500. I want to get, two out of my four that I had right. And I got three out of four. So
Hell
hey, I
yeah.
did pretty good. And I mean, I'm surprised by yours as well because you like to reach. You
I
like to
do.
reach.
I do.
And I mean, you did well as well. So I mean, let's just get into it. Let's do a nice quick overview of what 2024 brought to us that we knew was going to happen
Yeah.
because we are inside the Crazy Ant Farm and we are inside the entertainment
Hell
industry.
yes.
So my first one, we can do a nice back and forth like we do all of our other segments with top fives and things like that. My first one that I thought was going to make a nice resurgence was video game adaptations.
Yes.
Video game adaptations did very well, and there's still a bunch more in development and pre-production and almost in production right now. So I'm excited about that. I
Yeah.
think that is a new turn in the entertainment industry to create a whole different genre that I believe will also generate a bunch of money for the box office. I mean, we saw Sonic the Hedgehog 3 come out this past year,
We did.
and the first one came out less than 5 years ago. So that particular franchise is continuing to rack up a lot of freaking money. So I'm very happy about that. I'm sure we're going to see many more of those to come. So I'm excited to see that as well. But yeah, my first one, video game adaptations, I was very happy to see.
Hell yes. Okay, my first one did indeed. I said that I thought that they would right the ship at Marvel because they had been having, while they held on to the crown, they always were the number one movie when they released a movie. They weren't making as much money. The shows were getting critiqued quite a bit because they were being pumped out left and right. The quality went down. I said that I thought that once Chapek was gone, Iger was back, they reestablished the Iger-Feige team, that they would right the ship and reclaim the dominance and reestablish themselves. And that's exactly what happened. Iger came back. Iger and Feige got together, said, let's slow this shit down. Let's go quality over quantity. Let's get it back on track. They scrapped almost all of Daredevil that had already been shot, went back to the drawing board, said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let's put it back towards the Netflix Daredevil. Let's kind of guide it there. And then, of course, the announcement from the Fantastic Four, if you guys have seen Thing, how he's going to look, every kind of the steps there. Of course, the massive box office success, the biggest movie of 2024, Deadpool and Wolverine, clearly reestablished what they expect to do at the box office every time they release one. Then you saw the trailers for Captain America New World Order, which is clearly going to reestablish the Captain America format of like spy thriller type. They're on the right track, guys. What If? Although the final season was clearly the best season, in my opinion, they've really got it back together. So, yeah. Did they reestablish themselves and right the ship and start getting this thing going in 2024 back to what we want? Yes, they did. Well done. Now I'm excited for 2025 too because they've got some stuff coming in 2025. So let's hope that ship stays where it's going. But yeah, I was happy to see them actually get back to being Marvel.
Most definitely. And I think they finally, came out with their clear path and vision, what they're going to do with the next Avengers.
Without doubt, yeah.
Films. And a lot of people, I'm surprised you didn't bring this one up. RDJ coming back
As
freaking
Dr. Doom.
Doom.
Yeah.
That's absolutely insane. So that's definitely pushing a lot of the fanfare back in their direction. So
Without
that's
doubt.
always good to see. The next one, I don't necessarily know if it's right or wrong. So, I mean, both of ours that I feel like we've gotten wrong, we have a little bit of argument against, right?
Yeah.
So my next one was social media downfall. I don't think social media had any sort of downfall this year besides TikTok, because we all know if January 18th comes and they haven't made a decision, the United States government and Supreme Court, TikTok's going to be gone. So other than TikTok, everything else has been doing pretty well. A lot of films and television shows have really pushed a lot of their marketing energy into social media trailers, social media interactions, trends. We saw that with Megan a couple years ago, and I'm sure because Megan 2.0 comes out, I believe this year,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be another social media trend with that. So social media downfall, but like I said, TikTok, which is one of the biggest platforms, especially for the younger audience, might go away. I mean, you could consider that a downfall, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that one was interesting to say the least. I don't think social media is going around or going away anytime soon, but it's definitely not been as important to everybody as we've seen in the past. So it's very interesting. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
social media. Where are you on?
Yeah, totally agree. I think that it's changed a bit in how it's used, how it's been purposed. I think so. You were right and wrong, right? It has kind of seen itself step back a little bit. Is that a downfall? I don't know, but it's definitely stepped back a little bit and kind of changed the purpose of what people are using it for or not using it for. And yeah, I'm right there with you. On the day of this recording, I saw that the Supreme Court was not inclined to. They haven't made a decision. They're taking it, obviously. They have up until the 8th. But not inclined to change the law that would ban TikTok after the 18th. Because that's what everybody said. They're trying to get the Supreme Court to abolish that law so that it doesn't get banned. But they didn't seem to cool about wanting to do that. They don't seem like they want to get involved in it. So we'll see. But Mr. Wonderful is going to buy it if it's available. So, we'll see. Shark Tank Mr. Wonderful, y'all. My next one, if you guys don't remember, because, man, there's been so much talk with Warner Brothers and Paramount and all this kind of stuff in 2024, right? But at the very end of 2023, going into 2024, the big, huge talk, these two studios, Paramount and Warner Brothers, were in talks. They were in negotiations for Warner Brothers and Paramount to merge. It looked like the golden deal. All they were worried about is whether the government would sign off on it. Looked like it was going to be a win-win for everybody. Warner Brothers would basically absorb all of Paramount's, library into them, and Zaslav and everybody seemed to be on board with it. And I was firm. I was firm in saying, absolutely not. This will never happen. This won't see the light of day. These two studios and these two studio heads, Sherry Redstone and Zaslav, will never make that. They're like oil and water, never going to happen. And of course, as we know, it did not. It failed to see anything. It was quickly over by the time 2024 started. They went in separate directions. And as you guys know, Paramount was bought by David Ellison's Skydance, and Zaslav, well, there's still some stuff with Warner Brothers. We're going to talk about that for 2025. But as predicted, though, I mean, anybody with rational sense kind of knew no way in hell that merger was ever going to happen. And as predicted, it did not.
There it is, man. There it is. So my third one, like I said, I've only had 3 on there. So there was more story-driven movies, in which we've seen more story-driven movies get greenlit, but specifically story-driven movies that came out in 2024.
Yes.
I would argue and say more story-driven movies came out in 2024 rather than box office successes.
Oh, without doubt.
Because a lot of box office successes in 2024 are sequels. So it was very interesting, or already established IP like Wicked. So it was very interesting to see with this award season that we're currently in. The Golden Globes started last week, so we're full-fledged trying to watch all the films, but you have Emilia Perez for Netflix, Honora, you had A Complete Unknown, so many different films that are very story-driven films, either about someone's life or a certain situation that happened in a certain decade. Sing Sing, Nickel Boys, there's so many different examples of these story-driven films, but it also goes into the prediction I made when we announced the Oscars, or when we announced Conan O'Brien as the Oscars host,
right,
it being the probably them losing viewership for the Oscars because of story-driven films, which I definitely think is still going to happen because these
really
aren't as mass. Oh yeah, for sure, without a doubt, these aren't as big of movies. This is not Barbie and Oppenheimer. These are not like blockbuster films that also tell a story. So I do think that it's going to be a downfall for this year, but hopefully for next year when Oscars come around, it will be much better because of 2025. There's a lot of great films coming out, so it's going to be very fun. But yeah, more story driven films, and we've seen it as appointed to, like I said, this award season. It's all films that a lot of people, if you're not filmmakers like us, if you're layman's people, you have not heard of a lot of these films.
Yeah,
So
facts.
that's why that went on my list.
Interesting. So I'm gonna hold you to this one because and rightfully so. I think your mindset in thinking towards this is correct. I'm talking about your prediction for the ratings of the Oscars going down because the
Yeah.
Golden Globes went up. It was the highest viewership that they had seen in the last several years, and was up from the previous year. And they were those story driven films, Amelia Perez and a complete. So will the Oscars follow suit with that with Conan or not? I'm curious to see that. So I was shocked, though. I was much like you in the same mind of thinking. I was shocked when I saw the ratings numbers for the Golden Globes. I was like, it did? It truly caught me off guard. I'm like, okay. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I loved it. But yeah, I was kind of shocked by it. Not shocked by my next prediction for 2024. And a lot of people I know thought maybe I was going to get this one wrong. Thought maybe this might finally be it. And it didn't happen. And it did happen. What do I mean? Because it's a two-prong here. If you remember during the strikes, Iger made a misstatement that kind of pissed off all of everybody. The studios, the actors, the layman people, the viewers, the fans, everyone. Just was not a good statement, kind of pissed everybody off. And I predicted, first half of my prediction here is that he would mend that relationship with the creators and the fans and the business executives and be the Iger that we knew he was and get back on track with that. He absolutely did that. He's in favor again. He's rocking and rolling with his term right now as CEO. Creators are flooding to him again. You saw the success. Disney reclaimed the box office crown in 2024 and saw massive success. He did that. My other thing is that everybody was saying this was finally it. Nelson Peltz was finally going to get the revenge for Ike Perlmutter from Marvel and finally get on the board and finally get rid of Iger. He had been trying and failing, and this was going to be it. And I said, absolutely not. Iger will stave it off. He will get the votes he needs, and Peltz will ride off into the sunset and give up. And I predicted he would stop trying, and that's exactly what happened. Not only did he lose, not only did Iger maintain the votes, stave him off, but he did indeed say he's had enough and rode off into the sunset with Ike, his good old Marvel buddy. So there you go. And thankfully, because that was the right move by the shareholders. It was what Disney needed to reestablish its footing going into 2025 with Iger's next successor. I can only imagine the chaos it would have been if Nelson Peltz had gotten on the board with Ike and then gotten rid of Iger and the whole chaos that would have caused with some sort of a successor to him, right? That would have been a disaster. So thankfully, we were right with the prediction. Everything worked out. Boom. Good to go.
Boom, man. Boom, boom, boom. Hopefully he stays away this time. Now, for my fourth and final one, I had more live streaming events on, obviously, streamers, especially Netflix. Netflix obviously led the ball with everybody.
Yeah.
And when it came to live streaming events, they had the Tyson and Paul fight. They had the Christmas Day games. They signed a overall deal with the WWE for Monday Night Raw, which went over very well. And they're very excited in that direction that they're going to take that, because you had guests that came out, like obviously old historic like legends like The Undertaker, Hulk Hogan, John Cena came back. He's on his final farewell tour. But then you had people of the entertainment industry. Seth Green was there. Kieran Culkin was there. Travis Scott was there. So many different people. Vanessa Hudgens. Like, they were at that event because Netflix freaking made sure that there was some industry news at that event, or industry people at that event. And I think that's going to keep happening, because if you guys don't know, the Raw is going to be at one specific location location out in Los Angeles. So they're going to be able to bring a whole bunch of celebrities out there to continue to publicize, to continue to promote Monday Night Raw. And I think that's just going to keep happening. Now, it would be interesting to see how that carries into 2025. Because I don't think Netflix really has made any clear implications on their plans for future live streaming events.
Beyond Raw.
Beyond Raw. I'm sure they're going to continue to outsource and reach out to different organizations. I know they were talking about tennis, golf, like all these different wide ranges of sports. But in 2024, they definitely put their money where their mouth is and did a lot of live streaming sports events on Netflix specifically. So I love to see it. I love to see it. Other than the crash of the Tyson and Paul fight. Other than that, everything else ran smoothly.
Right. And this is not on my 2025 prediction list, but I'll throw it in there in correlation with yours. If they do move forward with a lot of those deals, if they do want to continue to pursue this stuff, signing those deals, as we saw with the big fight between Warner Brothers and the NBA and all these, it's expensive. So there's a lot of rumors floating around that Netflix will finally cave in and do what they said that they would never do, and that's start throwing in ads more than just a little bit here or there. We're talking massive ad spots to pay for revenue, to generate, to pay for those live events. I think we will see that, because if you're going to go after big things like that, you're going to need money. And that money is generated by selling ad space or sponsorship. So I don't know. We'll see. But I'm right there with you. I watched the NFL games and I enjoyed them. They did rebound really nicely from the Tyson fight. The NFL games came across really well. Now, I'm wondering if they're going to hire their own people, because they basically just cherry-picked CBS and Fox's people. Greg Olson and, they did the commentating. So are you going to go with your own team, or are you going to continue to just cherry-pick from the other, networks? I don't know. But, that'd be interesting.
It is, man.
Speaking of profitability, right? As you guys know, when all the other studios, aside from Netflix, because Netflix was already doing it, decided to launch their streamers, they were ill prepared, didn't realize the infrastructure and what it would take to run these things. And they all quickly realized, oh crap, we're going to be in debt for decades before we ever see a profit, because this is really expensive to try to maintain and do. And a lot of them were struggling. There's a couple that are still in debt. But at the beginning of 2024, I predicted that Disney, because they seemed to be on pace, just from numbers that we were getting and seeing, to reach profitability prior to what they had projected. They seemed to be on a path quicker. And I said I agreed with that. I thought that would indeed happen. I thought that Disney Plus would become profitable before the end of 2024 and way quicker, 4 years sooner than what they had anticipated. And this one was a squeaker, y'all, because Disney Plus became profitable. If you remember, just a couple weeks ago, they announced at the very end of the fourth quarter, they crossed the threshold, became profitable. They had they cleared a $70 or $80 million profit based compared to the year before, where it was a $487 million loss. So boom. But it took all of 2024. I was sweating that one. I'm like, but right at the end, they boom, profitable. So, and now, of course, moving forward, I think obviously Hulu, Disney Plus, all the mergers, and now they're getting ready to buy another one to try to stave off with the sporting stuff and everything. They're going to stay profitable. I think that they finally have figured it out, and so that's a good one. And I had a fifth one that I totally missed on. But I'm convinced this is going to happen. I said that a major scandal for a studio would happen. I was not talking about Sony with Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. I can't really say that's a studio scandal. I was predicting that a certain studio and a certain CEO of that certain studio would have a scandal because it would come out that he was just not a really nice person and was involved in a lot of shady shit, kind of like a Weinstein. It did not happen, and I was pretty adamant, and if you want to know who I'm talking about, go back and listen. I'm still convinced that this will happen. I am. I'm not putting it for 2025. Maybe it's down the line. Maybe Ellison gets in there. Oh, I said Ellison. So now you know it's Paramount. But maybe he gets in there and realizes it and exposes it. I don't know. But I'm still confident that is going to happen. There it is. But I was wrong. Big red X. Wrong. But I'm holding. It's going to happen.
Well, that was the thing. It's like you had, because major scandal for a studio, if you just had major scandal in the entertainment industry,
I would have nailed it.
Yeah, you would have been there. You would have been there. But it's okay. It's fine. Lessons for next year.
That's right. I'm going out on a limb again for 2025, like you said at the top of 2024. I'm taking some leaps, but you know.
Right? I mean, that would be absolutely crazy if it did happen because, yeah, it's very interesting, especially with the sale and the merger and all of the things. Yeah, because they got a whole new regime coming in if it gets freaking passed by the government. But, yeah, I'm excited, though. I'm excited to see what Paramount and CBS are able to do because, like, I really like Skydance and I really like David Ellison. So I do
too. And one of my predictions for 2025, and we'll jump into it here for a minute, though. I'm a little nervous about one of the moves that I think he's going to make, but you know, we'll see. We'll see. But I'm just saying, right before we jump into 2025, said person was really tight with, and might still be with other said person that was exposed. I'm just saying, you can't be like that intertwined for that long and involved with each other's stuff and not have known about it, not have been a part of it, not just saying.